The Newsfeed Late Night continues for you now here on Newsroom Africa, Channel 405. Kenya has threatened to close 2 refugee camps in the country. The Ministry of Interior released a tweet stating that the United Nations Human Rights Commission has been issued with a 14-day period to provide a roadmap on the closure of the camps. The ministry made it clear that there was no room for further negotiations. For more on this, I'm joined by Terry Nzao, a journalist in Kenya, to get us a little bit more details on this announcement. Terry, good evening and thank you very much for your time. Did the government give any reasons as to why they want those camps closed?
Good evening. So far, the Kenyan government has not given any reason regarding its ultimatum to close Dadaab and Kakuma camps, which hosts thousands of refugees and asylum seekers in the country. But what we hear from observers is that this could be as a result of the diplomatic row between Somalia and Kenya. You remember well there's a maritime dispute in the International Court of Justice between Kenya and Somalia on the waters in the Indian Ocean, where Somalia took Kenya to the ICJ court because of reasons of maritime waters. And so far we understand that the Kenyan government has already protested this.
Now, the statement reads no room for further negotiations, which I suppose would indicate that there's been ongoing negotiations on this matter. How far back have they been negotiating, and what do we know has come out from those negotiations?
On Friday, the Minister for Interior in Kenya, Dr. Fred Matiang'i, met some bodies like IMF, World Bank, and like 25 foreign ministers from different countries. But the details of the meeting was not really put in public. But mostly they say that the Kenyan government is not open for any negotiations any further, while the UN agency body, which is the UNHCR, is fronting for an open dialogue with Kenyan government. But so far it seems like the Kenyan government mind is already set. Remember in 2016, Kenyan government had also issued an ultimatum to Somalia to remove some of their refugees in the country, and they had said they would close down Dadaab and Kakuma. They're the biggest refugee camps in the country. So far, I don't think whether there are any open talks between the Kenyan government and the Somali government or any UN body regarding the same, because the Kenyan government says we are enough, we've had enough, and we are ready to close the Kakuma and the Dadaab camps.
Now, if the Kenyan government carries through with this announcement, I mean, it literally means 500,000 or so, even more, refugees will be out in the lurch. I mean, what does it mean around their protection at that particular point? It means in 14 days, those refugees will no longer be protected?
In fact, this is like in the next 5 days, because the ultimatum was given last week, 14 days. It means it will lapse on 6th of April. We are in April. So it means it's in 5 days to come. And the UN agency, the UNHCR, says there's need for a solution, a sustainable solution to be reached between the concerned parties and the Kenyan government. This is what they are pleading. But the Kenyan government insists that they have already made their mind. They want the UN, the Kakuma and the Dadaab camps closed. So far, we know by 28th of February this year, the 2 camps had hosted about 500 and something refugees and asylum seekers in both of the camps. So this means that if they're going to close the camps, most of the refugees and asylum seekers will not have any place to live, or they'll not have any refuge. And that's why the UN body, which is the UNHCR, is trying to plead with the Kenyan government, asking them, there's a curfew which has been placed, there's a partial lockdown which has been placed, and they are saying it will be hard for them to implement this within the shortest period that they have been given. And they are saying if this ultimatum is going to lapse and there is not any agreement that is reached between the concerned bodies, it means that then the protection of the refugees will not take place, and most of them will not have anywhere to live.
Yeah. What other international bodies are getting into this in terms of negotiating with the Kenyan government, except for the UN Refugee Agency?
Like I said on Friday, last Friday, the IMF, the World Bank, and there were like 25 foreign ministries or foreign foreign ministries which were involved in these talks. And they are trying to come into an agreement with whatever decision the Kenyan government has come with, to try and see whether they can have a soft spot or they can reverse their decision. And when the case started in the International Court of Justice, you remember the Kenyan government last week through the AG, they tried to write a protest letter to the ICJ saying that there is biasness and there are issues with unwillingness of the court to even push ahead the hearings or to delay the hearings. So this is seen to be like a diplomatic war between Kenya and Somalia. And most probably, this could be the issue that is pushing Kenya to give the ultimatum to the UN body and other bodies, trying to say that we have had enough and we want to shut down the two main camps. Remember in 2016, the Kenyan government had a reason that the reason they had given the ultimatum was most of the terrorism activities that were being planned inside the refugee camps. But for now, they're not giving any reason as to why they want to close down the camps.
Right. Now, the head of External Relations Department for the UN Refugee Agency saying that the talks are continuing at a higher level. I mean, what does that tell us? And does that give any hope of breaking the deadlock?
It means there's some hope, because last week when they met, the details of what was spoken or what was discussed in that meeting was not made in public, and saying that they are going to have, or they still having more talks with high-level organizations in the UN and other bodies. It means that probably the Kenyan government could have another thought in the decision that it has made, probably.
Now, Terry, we are, of course, looking at this in a time of a pandemic, and there is a scarcity of resources, things like vaccines and healthcare facilities. What is the structure of refugee treatment in Kenya as far as their integration into society and their access to facilities like healthcare services?
Most of these refugees are in Dadaab. Dadaab is situated at Garissa, northern part of Kenya. It borders the Kenya-Somalia border, and most of the refugees who are placed in that refugee camp are normally enclosed. So if it comes to issues to do with medication, vaccine, food, shelter, and other issues, they are normally given inside that camp. The same as Kakuma, which is in Turkana. So it means at this pandemic time, issues to do with medication, issues to do with their food, it might be interrupted in case the Kenyan government continues with their plan to shut down the two main camps. And also at the moment, we've had shortage in terms of the vaccine. We've seen county governments even decrying shortage of these vaccines and even saying they are not sure whether come April, which we've already settled in today, whether we'll have the second bunch of the COVID-19 vaccine, which is not even enough for the Kenyan citizens. So I think it will be a bit challenging for the refugees and the asylum seekers inside these camps to get food, to get medication and other medical attention.
Yeah. Are you saying to us, Terry, that the asylum seekers or the refugees in the camps are not allowed to integrate into the communities? They remain enclosed in those camps?
Sure, they remain enclosed in the camps because when we had threats of terrorism and with the issues to deal with now COVID, the president had announced that there is no integration, much integration between people from different countries. And remember that most of these refugees who are in the camps, they come from Somalia. Like I said, as at February this year, we had like 513 refugees and asylum seekers in these refugee camps. And almost half of that, 273, they were coming from Somalia. And the president had said, all those people coming from outside, coming out of our borders, before they come inside, their COVID status must be known. And they were told that they have to stay in a particular place without integrating with people to also help curb the spread of COVID-19.
Yeah. What would it take? I mean, what would it mean if, for example, the camps were to be relocated to a territory outside of Kenya?
There are plans. This is not the first time. I remember in 2015, 2017, there were plans by the Kenyan government to relocate the camps outside the Kenyan border. But I think issues to deal with both countries, they didn't agree, or issues to deal with also funds to relocate the camp, because you understand it will need a lot of funds to relocate them. It will need some negotiations between the two countries on exactly the correct place where they need to relocate the camps to. Is it in the Kenyan border or is it in the Somalia border? So there are issues still pending on that.
All right, Terry Nzao, appreciate you coming through this evening and giving us those details. Our Kenyan-based journalist there, Terry Nzao, with the details of this ultimatum given by the Kenyan government to the UN Refugee Agency there. It's in less than 5 days now that they're saying those two camps, which amount to close to 500,000 people, have got to be closed down. When we continue